Magnet families. I'm Principal Matt Creasman, and I want to introduce you to my new admin team this year. And I'll start with Alan Teague.
Good morning, Northeast Magnet family. I'm definitely excited about joining Northeast this year. I've worked in the Wichita Public Schools since 1995. During my first 8 years in education, I taught social studies and I was an assistant football coach at Southeast High School. My last 17 years were spent at the middle school level. And since the last 13 of those years were spent at Brooks Middle School, I'm definitely excited about getting to work with some of those students who I worked with back at Brooks. Prior to becoming an educator, I served 4 years in the United States Army, and I'm a veteran of Desert Storm. And although the school year is going to look a whole lot different than years that we've had in the past, I just want you to know that the Northeast family here is committed to providing a safe learning opportunity for students and also maintaining the tradition of academic excellence here at Northeast Magnet. And again, I'm excited to be working with students and families and also the staff here at Northeast Magnet.
Thank you, Alan, and now I'll introduce Erin Nichols.
Hi, Northeast Magnet families. I am thrilled to be joining the mightiness that is the Griffins here at the Magnet. I have been in education. This is my 21st year in education. I spent 17 of those years in Wichita Public Schools. I had many roles that I served in that time, including English language arts teacher, instructional coach. I was a full release new teacher mentor. I spent the past 4 years in El Dorado Public Schools, where I was an English language arts and history teacher. I was also a Title I student interventionist, but I am thrilled to be back in 259 and to have been lucky enough to join the best school, not only in 259, but in Kansas. Thrilled to be with you. Cannot wait to meet the students and you all, the families, and just help continue the greatness of Northeast Magnet.
Thank you, Erin and Alan. I just want to say that I'm really excited to have both of them. This has been obviously a rocky start for everybody, but they have been excellent team players and have already proven their worth, and really looking forward to working with them for the rest of the year. As you know, last night the school board did make a decision, and now we feel like we are to a point where we can start sharing information and starting to move forward. We kind of felt like we were on the starting line in a race and we were revving our engine for a long time, but we've now reached that point where we can start making plans and sharing information. And I know that that's been frustrating for you, and you'll start hearing a whole lot more from us now that we know where we're going. I want to share some information with you about what school is going to look like, and this all is because of the school board decision. So there are some things that if we do return in person, I'll share some different information, but rather than confuse things, let's just focus on what it's going to look like for the first quarter through remote learning. So I'm going to share my screen, and this is something that technology is not always my best friend, but we will get started here. And again, the school board decision was made last night, and the decision that was made is that all students grades 6 through 12, which would include high school, would begin the year in remote learning. So we won't have any face-to-face presence at the school, but we will be doing remote learning, and I'll explain what that's going to look like. Something that's really going to be important for all of us to remember is this line right here. There was ever a year for patience, grace, and flexibility, it's going to be this year. And that patience, grace, and flexibility extends to all of us. It extends to our families, who I know you guys have been sitting out there waiting for something to happen, waiting for that information. I know it's been frustrating not knowing. I understand why it took so long to make this decision, because we were waiting till we got closer and closer to the year, and we needed to know how Sedgwick County looked and whether it was going to be safe to come back. I know that patience, that's really tested patience. It's also been really hard on staff. Because we're doing two different options, we're still in the process of building schedules. So they're really struggling with that too. Our teachers are fantastic. They've been good at their jobs for many years, and they have a platform that they've been able to deliver from for a long time. And then when you take that platform out from under them, these veteran teachers who are very successful now are learning something completely new. And they're doing a great job, and their enthusiasm for learning this and doing the best they can is as it would be any other year. It just has that element of nerves to it. But the same is going to be true for students. I know that students were really looking forward to being able to come back. We're definitely looking forward to being able to have them come back. And this is hard on them. This is not what they had in mind, most of them. But it's probably for the best and definitely the safest thing that we can do. So that grace, we're really going to have to focus on that this year. We're going to have to hear each other out and work with each other to try to make a really difficult situation the best situation we can possibly make it. So every decision we make this year is going to be driven by safety, and that's going to be the number one priority. That decision has already been made for us by the school board last night. So we know that beginning this school year, we won't have face-to-face instruction, in-person instruction. So it's going to look a little bit different, but there's a good chance at some point this year we would return to that. And if we return to that, we have other plans in place that we will share with you, but there's really no point in spending a lot of time talking about that right now, when what we really need to be focusing on is what's remote learning going to look like at Northeast Magnet. So just a quick overview of what the school calendar is going to look like. And you have access to this through the WPS website. But freshman orientation will still be on September 4th. You guys are going to get some information about what that's going to look like, and that'll be coming to you either on the August 28th or the 31st, which will have two more dates kind of like this, where you're going to get a lot of information from the school district as well as from Northeast Magnet. And we'll share information in between as we know things too. The first quarter for school, the first day for everybody, will begin September 8th. That quarter is going to last to November 6th, so the schedule is going to look different from what it normally does. Fall break will be the 25th through the 27th of November, and then we'll have second quarter begin on November 9th. Winter break will go from December 21st through January 1st. We'll return, and this will be a little bit different from years past. We'll return to finish first semester. So first semester will pick up after winter break and end on January 22nd. The second semester will start on January 25th. The third quarter will end on March 19th. Spring break will go from March 22nd through the 26th. And then the fourth quarter will begin on March 29th, leaving us with our final day of school on, let me see, move this here, May 25th. So we have a calendar in place that's good for us to be able to see. Sorry, I'm frozen here. So I want to share USD 259's 4 long-term goals. Obviously, I've got one of these a little bit smaller, not because it's not important, but by the time that students get to us, there's not much we can do about increasing the third grade reading proficiency, which is really important. But that's the lift and not lifting that we do. We are always looking to increase high school graduation rate. The last 2 years, students that were still enrolled at Northeast Magnet at the end of the school year, we've graduated all but 2 students in the last 2 years, and we're hoping to be able to get one of those students taken care of this year too. So we have a really great graduation rate. We will continue to do our best to hold that standard for Northeast Magnet and for the district. We're looking to increase the percentage of students who are completing dual credit. That's going to be more difficult this year because we're building 2 different schools out of 1 staff, and I'll explain that a little bit later. So we won't have as many opportunities, but we're still going to try to offer some opportunities. And then also in red here, it's important always, but this year it's especially important. When we think about school safety, we think about a lot of different things, and this year we think about being safe during the pandemic. So that's going to be important that we're safe for everybody. We have a lot of new staff this year. Well, actually, shouldn't say a lot. We don't have a lot. We have some new staff. We have Mr. Alan Teague that you just met, one of our new assistant principals, and then Aaron Nichols is also a new assistant principal. We have a new English teacher, Deanne Mary, coming to us from East High. And then we have Jeremy Richard as an English teacher coming to us from Brooks. Roman Belden was a student teacher for us a few years ago, and he's joining us from West to teach history. And we have Sarah Kilgore, who is a first-year teacher coming to us to teach some ninth grade science classes. And then we have Jasmine Crowder, who's a paraprofessional who will be helping us in classrooms. Can't ever talk about Northeast Magnet without quickly going through our core values, because even though things are going to look different, these are things that are still important to us. Student achievement and high standards I always like to put together because these two things go hand in hand. Northeast Magnet has high standards and high expectations of their students, but the opposite is true too. The students have really high expectations of us and of the staff. We're all going to work together this year to try to meet those high standards, and we will continue to have our students achieve at high levels and to meet those high standards. Magnets, projects, and innovation also go together. Magnets are going to look different this year. We will have several kids that we will, for a variety of reasons, may not be able to schedule into magnet classes because of some of the difficulties we're going to have meeting students' needs, but it's still going to be important that we recognize that connection. Projects will also look different this year too, but we will continue to be innovative, and I would imagine that we're going to be probably even more innovative than we usually are as we learn to work with the remote learning and some of the different things that we can do with that. Last two things that are on here, all of those other things matter to me, but the things that really mean the most to me are the last two: respect and community. I've been different places in the district, and the thing that makes Northeast Magnet different from I think other places is that sense of community we have. We're going to do everything we can to hang on to that this year. Even if we're not in person, we're going to find ways to still connect, ways to still have fun as a staff, and ways to still value each other and to value our diversity, which is something that's really important at Northeast Magnet. Guidelines for success. These three things will make you successful no matter where you go, no matter whether we're talking about high school, college, or anywhere else. Academics obviously is going to be something that's going to be important, and it's going to look different again this year, but we will still hold students to high standards, and we think that they will still meet those expectations. I'm sure they will. Accountability is also huge, and accountability is going to be even bigger this year. It's going to be bigger for everybody because it's going to be so much different. So students will be learning remotely, so they'll be learning from home. So it's going to be really important that they're where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. We will have a set schedule, so students will log in, they will join their first hour class, they will have a teacher that is giving them instruction, they will have interactions with the students that are in their classes. It will look very different from what it looked like last spring. Attendance I have de-emphasized a little bit on here because I do think it's important that people are taking care of themselves and doing what they need to do. If you feel well enough to be in attendance through the remote learning process, you should be there. Even if you're not feeling great, you should be able to log in remotely. If we should return to face-to-face, which I think we will at some point this year, if we do that, we're going to be a little bit different about attendance. We've always encouraged people to be here, but this year we really want you, if you're not feeling well and we do hit that point, want you to err on the side of caution and stay home. Student schedules. So what you see on Parent View, and this is going to be frustrating for everybody, what you see on Parent View or Student View is most likely going to change in the next few days. Those schedules are not accurate. We weren't really able to go in and start making changes to the schedules until we had a couple of things. One was a decision from the school board to know what we were going to be doing. And then two, we needed to get information from families on enrollment so we know how many students were choosing face-to-face instruction and how many students were choosing My School Remote. Even though we're going remote, everybody, we still have to build these two schedules. And the reason for that is we could, the way the school board set it up, we're remote through the first quarter, but there's going to be a COVID committee that's going to advise the school board. And based on data and things that we see in the community, the school board could decide to bring us back at the end of the first quarter or even before the end of the first quarter. because of that, it's absolutely crucial that we build both sets of schedules. Even though we're remote for now, we don't know if we're going to come back, and we want to make sure that we honor those choices that families have made. So the schedules will likely change quite a bit over the next week. We're going to do something completely different this year because safety, like we said, is going to be a huge factor in every decision we make. We're going to do a 4x4 schedule, and I'm going to show you what that's going to look like, and it's going to be kind of confusing, but I'll make some sense of that for you. 4x4 schedule means that for first semester, we will only have 4 classes. So students will never have more than 4 classes at a time to focus on. And this is going to be really good when it comes to remote learning, because I think it's going to help people manage the workload. And I think that's that will be true for, families, students, and teachers. Families, you'll only have 4 teachers that you'll need to be worried about contacting. Teachers will just have 3 to 4 classes depending on which semester they have a full planning period, a large planning period, and then students will just have the 4 classes that they need to manage. When we return to school, this will also do a lot to help us be safer. It'll reduce the amount of time students will spend in large groups in the hallway. So when we come back, if we're only changing classes a few times a day as opposed to 7 times a day, that reduces the number of contacts that students are going to have and the amount of contact. Also, it will reduce the number of students your student will be in close contact with in classes. So instead of having 7 classes, they'll have 4, so they will encounter fewer people in close contact for extended periods of time, which is going to be safer. It's also going to give us the ability to do 2 lunches, and that'll allow us to practice social distancing, so we won't have our big tables out with 6 people sitting at them. We'll have 2 people at those tables. We'll use a couple of different places when we do come back, and we'll explain all of that to you when we get closer to that, to make sure that people are as safe as possible. So this schedule enables us to be safer. This is what the schedule is going to look like, kind of what it's going to look like. And this assumes more of a face-to-face, which we're not going to do, but I want to show you this just so that you understand when we do come back, if we do come back. The first semester, we're going to do only 4 classes. It's going to be first period, and that's going to be from 7 to 8:30. And that will be all semester every day. So about 90 minutes that class will be. The third period is going to be 90 minutes also, from 8:35 to 10:05. And it will be every day for a semester. And that will end that class. So first, third, and fifth, they will go for 1 semester only, and we'll get the entire credit. The first half credit will be in the first quarter. The second credit will be in the second quarter, and then that will be the credit for the entire year. Fifth period is going to look a little bit different. It looks like it's longer, but it's really not. The class is about 95 minutes, but it has 2 lunches built into it. And that will be for when we're face-to-face, which is not what we're starting. I'll show you a schedule for what it'll look like for remote here in a minute. We are going to have one weird part of our day, and this is the part that's going to be the hardest to understand. I think the first part's going to be pretty easy to wrap your head around, but the second part's going to be a little bit more difficult. Teachers are bound by contract to have a certain amount of planning period, and they need that to be able to prepare lessons, to be able to grade, to be able to communicate with families. So in order to do that, we have to create this last block of the day, which is going to be 2 different parts, and it will run all year. So advocacy will run for the entire year every day. It'll be about 47 minutes. And then 7th period will be about 48 minutes, and it'll run for the entire year every day. So the first semester, students will earn a half credit for 7th period, and that makes sense because it is half the amount of time that the other classes are. So it's the only class, academic class, that will run all year is your 7th period. Again, the reason for that is to make sure that teachers get adequate amount of planning time. So that makes our schedule look a little bit strange, but it will make sense. This is what our schedule is going to look like while we're on remote. So this is really what we need to focus on. So we are going to have students logging into Teams with their class at 7 a.m. So we'll take attendance and we'll do class like we would normally do. And a teacher will give instruction. You'll see your teacher's face on there. You will have the ability to ask questions. You'll have the ability to interact with other students. You'll even have the ability to do work together on projects through Teams. So you guys will have an opportunity to be able to break off even into smaller rooms with groups of students to be able to work on projects. So this will look very different from what it looked like before. First period will be 90 minutes. The third period of the day will be 90 minutes also. And then the fifth period of the day will be 90 minutes. Going to give you a little bit longer time for lunch than we normally would. And because we're remote, we don't need to do 2 lunches. We'll just do one from 11:40 to 12:30. We'll have advocacy like we showed you before. It will be a time for about 47 minutes every day. We're working on what that's going to look like. Right now, we're envisioning that you would check in with your advocacy teacher, start that way. There may be some information that we give to students through the school through advocacy. But also this could be a time where we may have office hours then after the initial check-in where you could get together with a teacher in another class where you're struggling and maybe work with them. So there are some things that we're looking at as far as advocacy goes, and we'll share those details too. But that will be every day for about 47 minutes. The final period of the day will be 7th period for about 48 minutes. And again, that will run all year. That will be those 2 classes will be the only 2 that run all year. This will just be for the first semester. When we finish this semester, I'm going to flip back to this. We'll go to second semester, and all of those classes, 1, 3, and 5, will be in the books. You will have completed those classes, whatever classes you have there. You don't need to worry about those for second semester. You will have earned all the credit you needed for those. The second semester, we'll do the other classes. So we'll have blocks 2, 4, 6, advocacy, and 7th period. So that will be kind of how that will look. And again, we'll continue to communicate, and this will make more and more sense. But this really does, I think, a lot to help students manage their schedules, especially through remote, but also when we're face-to-face, it makes us safer. So we have some challenges when we're looking at face-to-face and My School Remote. And something that's really important to keep in mind is there are advantages to being a small school. One of the biggest advantages we have to being a small school is that if we do go face-to-face, I think we are able to better manage and more safely manage passing periods, lunch, the beginning of the school day, dismissal. It's a whole lot easier when you're dealing with 450 students, which right now is the amount of students that we have that are face-to-face. Where we run into big difficulties as a school is a small school, and this is even during normal times. The smaller your school, smaller your staff, the fewer options you can have for a particular class. So to give an example, an orchestra class or a Spanish 4 class, rep theater. These classes may be only offered 1 period per day. That makes it a pretty big balancing act when we go in to try to complete student schedules and get students the options they want. That's always a challenge for us because we have more requirements than other schools. We have the 4 core classes. You have to have your English class, you have to have your math class, you have to have your history class, you have to have your science class, but you also have to have your magnet class. So that takes up 5 of your 7 blocks or 7 classes that you have per day. That only gives you a couple of places for electives. It's always a really tight fit for us to create that elective schedule and to get students scheduled where they want. We do a really good job of doing that. Our counselors do an excellent job of doing that. This year, that's going to be a whole lot more difficult. And I'm just going to say that sacrifices will have to be made all around in order to be able to accommodate everybody here. So in other words, in accommodating everybody, we won't be able to accommodate people as well as we had in the past. So face-to-face right now, we're looking at 450 students. My School Remote, we're looking at about 250 students. We have the same number of staff, so we're going to have to peel off some of those sections from the face-to-face to be able to create the My School Remote. What that's going to do is it's going to pretty seriously limit what we can do for My School Remote. Now, safety is obviously for people who have chosen that, that's their top priority. But it's going to mean that we're going to have limited honors options. We won't be able to offer honors classes for English. We won't be able to offer honors classes for social studies. Dual credit options won't really be available for us through My School Remote. I wish they were, but we really don't have the ability to do those at the same time. AP classes, we probably won't be able to accommodate those either. It's also going to mean that we're going to have a pretty seriously limited amount of electives that we're going to have. This happens when you take one staff and you divide it into two schools. It means that we all of a sudden have far fewer options to try to meet the needs for two different groups of students. I want to be as upfront as possible about this. This isn't because we don't care. It's because really we don't have the ability to provide all the things we would normally be able to provide when we're doing two very different options. And that's going to be hard for people to understand. And when we talk about grace and patience, this is where it's really going to come into play. This year won't look like normal years. I mean, we all know that, but this is probably the best that we're going to be able to do, and we will do everything we can to be creative, but there's a really good chance that everybody will feel some level of disappointment in not getting exactly what they hope to be able to get. But we will get students what they need to be able to move on. Dr. Thompson said last night that families will have time to change their minds about their learning option up until August 28th. So as we're looking at this, and you know that we have chosen to go remote for everybody, and you know that that's going to last for the first quarter of the year, if you feel comfortable with that and feel like you want to make a selection away from My School Remote and go face-to-face, you can do that, which would mean if the school board decides, or when they decide to bring students back, your student would come back. If you're still comfortable with the My School Remote, even knowing that it may not offer all of the things that we were able to offer with our regular schedule, you can stay with that. But I just want to be as transparent as possible. And we didn't know how all of this was going to work until we really started looking at it. But I want people to really know where we are and understand why things are the way they are. It's just really difficult to build two schedules with one staff. Remote learning. This is another big issue. It's going to look very different from what you saw in the spring. What you saw in the spring was more just kind of communication. Learning was optional in the spring. Learning will not be optional. It will be an expectation that students are logged into class every day. We shared that schedule. We'll share that schedule with students too several times, so they will know that they will be expected to be logged in at 7 o'clock, and they'll be expected to stay logged in through 8:30 for that first period of the day. And that will be an expectation for every day for the entire semester. So there will be direct instruction. A teacher will be there to give you instruction in those classes. There is a chance that in order to be creative, to get some students some electives they want, we may be leveraging Edgenuity, which is a learning center. It's our learning center course, which is part of kind of the Imagine Academy that you heard about. We can use some of the courses that are available there for original credit if we are really trying to be creative. And in those cases, a student wouldn't necessarily have a teacher. It would be more of a student logging in and completing assignments at their own pace and getting through that. Now, that we don't have that as an option for all classes, but we do have that as an option in places where we need to try to be creative to really try to get people something that they're looking for. So that's important to understand. But remote learning will look very different. There'll be a set schedule where students are logged in. There'll be a teacher there to help. There will be other classmates there. There will be group assignments even through remote learning. So it will be a much superior system compared to what we had in the spring. All of our classes will be run through Microsoft Teams. Teachers are learning a lot about that. In fact, if you wonder what's happening right now, that is really what's happening. In the morning, teachers are learning how to use Microsoft Teams. In the afternoon, they're collaborating with each other to put together lessons and to practice using it so that when we do start school on September 8th, they're ready to go with that. There'll be training provided for students by the district and by our teachers. So when we get going on that, we will be sharing with students how to do that, and that'll be a big part of just kind of getting this whole thing off the ground. Details of technology deployment to students is coming, so I don't have, they're coming. I don't have that ready to share with you right now. We don't know as a district, but that you will be getting information on that in the coming days. So while a lot has changed, obviously, there are some things that haven't changed. Northeast Magnet will continue to be the best high school in the state of Kansas. We will do everything we can to be the best. And one of the things that I'm really saying a lot right now to staff, and we have a great staff, is Northeast Magnet doesn't fail. And we're not going to fail this year either. In fact, I expect that we will lead the way. Our staff is the greatest staff, I think, in the state of Kansas too. And the dedication that they've shown the last few weeks to get ready for this has been something that's really been heartwarming for me to see. It's part of the reason I love coming here. They are doing everything they can to be ready for you. They miss you. They're looking forward to working with you in whatever capacity they can. But we do have a great staff. We also have great students. Northeast Magnet students are fantastic. If we have to do something like this, I'm just really grateful that we have the staff and the students that we have, but also important and extremely important is the support of the families of our Northeast Magnet students. If ever education in a year was a partnership, it's this year. And again, back to the grace, patience, and flexibility. We're in this together. All stakeholders are in this together, and we're here to help you. This afternoon, you'll be getting phone calls from staff just kind of welcoming you back. You can ask some questions of staff, and what they can answer, they will answer. What they can't, they'll direct you to a place where you can get your answer. And we also need to be a little bit comfortable knowing that we don't have all the answers yet, but those answers are coming. We have the same high expectations that we've always had. It'll look different, but we will continue to be successful. Some focus areas that we have. I always share this with staff at the end of the year. Relationships is what I always have big and bold. I don't think that it matters, and I think a lot of people agree. It doesn't matter what you know and what skills you have. If you can't build relationships with students, it's really difficult to teach. So relationships need to come first. But this year, equally important is safety. Obviously, some of that decision has been made for us. I think we start the year in a safer place, but when we reach a point where we come back to face, safety is going to be something that we spend a lot of time talking about here. Big focus areas also include that teams remote training. School culture is still going to be really important. It's going to be important that we're still good to each other, that we still take care of each other, that we still have that school spirit that we have at Northeast Magnet. Keeping grades current is going to be something that we've really talked about with staff. I know families, one of the things that helps you the most to be able to help teachers and to be able to help your student is to know where students are. Obviously, it won't be up to date minute by minute, but we're going to do our best to try to keep grades up to date weekly. So we should be posting grades every week. Contacting parents and logging contacts is also going to be important. So you are going to want to know if your students aren't logging in, if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Obviously, families are going to, or teachers are going to be reaching out to you and letting you know, hey, your student hasn't been signing on for his second period or whatever. So we'll talk about that. We'll try to communicate those pieces with you. More information will come to you. We have a couple of more dates like this where the district will share information with you on August 28th and also on August 31st. We'll try to share information with you in between. We are really working hard to try to get everything ready to go for you. Just want you to know that we care about you, and this is it's important to all of us that we make this year as successful as possible. I do want to open it up to my assistant principals to share anything that they think is important that I might have left out here. If there are answers that you do not get from this that you're looking for, you can call 973-2300 and we will direct your call to the person that can answer that question. Again, kind of beware that we may not have an answer to that question yet. We're still working through those questions. But again, I want to open this up to Mrs. Nichols and Mr. Teague to see if they have anything that they want to add. So, Aaron, if you want to go first.
Thanks so much. Really reiterate what Matt said, that we're all here working hard to make sure that families are feeling valued and that students are feeling welcomed, and that we are addressing those questions that you have. So I think Matt shared a very complete bit of information. This is information that we probably would have shared in an open house had we been able to meet together for a traditional beginning of the school year open house. So hopefully this answered some of your questions, but we are here for you. We are working hard to make sure that students are going to have an amazing year.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Teague?
Yes. So I've been very impressed with just the commitment to excellence that this staff has shown since I've been here. And I'm just excited to see how our staff is going to support families and students. And I know that, Mr. Creasman has stated time and time again with staff members and with Ms. Nichols and myself that we need to make sure that we're creating, cultivating, maintaining a safe environment. And then also making sure that we support you guys by building a community, of excellence, and also one where relationships is very important. So we know there are a lot of emotions, a lot of excitement, but a lot of emotions about what the school year will look like. And you just believe that we have your students' best interests at heart. We're going to do our very best to make sure that they get a quality, world-class education here at Northeast Magnet, and I'm excited to be part of the family.
Thank you, Mr. Teague. I think those are good words. Both of you, thank you. We look forward to serving all families. Appreciate everything that you guys are going to do to partner with us this year. Thank you.